anytime anybody sees a launch, it's incredibly inspiring. You know, all this engineering that comes together to do something miraculous all in 1 second. It really blew me away, and I could never have imagined that, you know, while I was watching rockets go to the moon as a kid, that my whole life and career would pass before we would, you know, get to go back.
It's exciting for me to think that we will have a whole lunar space economy of building on an outpost like the moon and then being an interplanetary species when we're able to colonize Mars with our international partners.
I like to focus on wind, so how wind is blowing sand around on the surface, and it turns out that this is a really good place to be to also study other worlds. So Earth, of course, has giant deserts, and these deserts have sand dunes, they produce dust. Well, once we started exploring the solar system, what we found is that Mars, Venus, Titan, Triton, Pluto, all of these places also had evidence of wind-blown processes. And so there's really two places on Earth that are ideal analog environments that have processes that are operating at the surface and also have a composition that's similar to Mars, and that's Iceland and Hawaii. I remember rolling up, you know, on the rover, seeing these first images and being stunned at the way these sand dunes looked, because it was a truly alien look. And it's like nothing we see on Earth. And I think the real enigma there is that, boy, this is just a pile of sand. How can it look so different? And it's really ignited our community.
Space construction is part of the Artemis mission, which is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's goal for the first woman and the next man to get back to the moon, to be able to establish a lunar presence permanently there, as well as get us from a lunar support base to a Mars mission. And so imagine all the infrastructure that we have at an airport or at a regular terrestrial launch facility. All of those sorts of things are going to be needed to be built on the moon. If you think about the missions that we've had there under Apollo in the past, they were very light spacecraft. There might have been 1 or 2 people. Some of the later Apollo missions had rovers, but we've never tried to pursue the type of undertaking and the type of infrastructure that we're going to be building on the moon in the next few years. A lunar support base is going to start with, what does it take to keep a person alive? That takes air, it takes water, it takes shelter, and it's shelter unlike any kind of shelter that you'd have here. And so imagine walking down the sidewalk at Texas A&M, but in a vacuum, in massive radiation, in negative 100 or 200 degree temperature. So people will be existing up there in a relatively semi-permanent or permanent state. And so all the same things we have in our towns we'll need there. We'll need healthcare facilities, we'll need lodging, dining, roads, infrastructure, waste treatment. All the same things that we have in any town in Texas or in America will be built on the moon.
So part of it was just the realization that everybody is excited about space, but not everybody has the opportunity to contribute. I actually watched my kids play Minecraft, and they were collaborating with their friends. They were sitting at home on a computer, collaborating with a friend to build something who was somewhere else. I was like, why can't we do that, you know, for space? Astrolab stands for Aerospace Technology Research and Operations, and so we are doing a lot of different projects related to space flight. So what we have essentially, you know, what people are calling digital twin, what we've created here is a digital twin of the space environment, the whole solar system. And our goal is really to make it possible for anybody who's designing anything that's going to be in space to be able to test it in a virtual environment of space before building it and flying it, you know, actually in space.
I think the main thing that we offer, at least in this lab, is accessibility. So you can come into this lab with no experience and you can pick it up right away. We try to offer it at a level that anybody from an incoming freshman to a PhD student can contribute something. That's one of our main goals.
There's so much stuff that we've done that's the highest fidelity that's done anywhere in the world. And it's just really neat to be, for me especially, to be able to see things like the South Pole of the Moon or places on Mars that nobody's been before in like full scientific detail.
When I think about what we're doing for space research, Texas A&M is the most uniquely situated university that has the ties to the Department of Defense that help the space launch platforms that we need here on Earth.
The nice thing about, I think, what's happening at Texas A&M in the space arena is there's a lot of collaboration between departments. So, for example, what's happening in construction engineering, I'm working with them. We have multiple projects together. We're working on grants together.
Texas A&M has long been a player in space studies, and the opportunity now is to leverage our historical strength and branch into some of the new aspects of space that the community needs to understand.
If this is the golden age of Texas A&M, what better time to align with the golden age of the second coming of the space race?